Now, let's turn our attention to the power bill stuff, but also, to a degree, the secrecy in and around the power bill stuff over the past couple of days. Now, again, we can go in two directions here, Linda, where we can talk about the actual power bills, the expense of them, all the rest of it, or this document here, right? This document, which is, among others, from that Centre for Public Integrity, which has a go at the government for how much it redacts, right? And the reports that we're talking about today are huge swathes of advice to government with black lines all the way through it. Now, Sean, you'd remember behind the scenes how this process works. Now you get to see it up front. But this is a fundamental problem. This is one of those ones that we're not going to get on the 6 p.m. news. It ain't going to be the front page. You're not going to stop a barbecue. But people need to have trust in the system. And if they have this slow play the ball approach to integrity, they're not going to have trust in the system. What do you think about that? And also the broader issues that have been exposed by that report about 2030 and bills?
Paul, I can tell you, I've read through that document and the stuff they left unredacted is so terrifying, I shudder to think what they've had to redact. Look, and it's not normal, this process. The redactions they've got there are extreme. Obviously, the Labor government is ashamed of what is in this report. They know if they were to show it to the people, they would be horrified. Because they know that if people to see the unredacted, they'd see that energy prices are going to skyrocket because of the Albanese Labor government's net zero obsession. And so, look, we supported a motion to have this unredacted, and I believe that'll be coming on tomorrow. But and look, it's not unsurprising. I mean, the Labor government promised more transparency. What we've seen is some of the least transparent actions of any government we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, Linda, this is a scenario where I do love the Sydney Morning Herald. They're as bad as Morrison. Well, if Morrison was bad on this stuff, then they were bad, right? They promised to do better. Instead, in many areas, they've gone worse. This is not some far right-wing think tank that's calling them out for the way they do things, the NDA process, all the rest of it here. I get it. Great political management, great media management, but hardly transparent.
Look, government integrity is important to monitor, and so I do congratulate the authors of this report for doing that. I think that's really important. Freedom of information, whistleblowing, these are all really important parts of our parliamentary system that allow governments to be accountable, and I will always stand up for that and I will never apologise for it. But in this case, when it comes to advice about energy, I also want to say this. The Labor government has been so transparent. They literally published the modelling that their government agency did to underpin the targets. They have published so much about this, and what the Senate is doing and arguing about and what the Senator is proposing in a motion is to basically have a fight about, one sentence in a piece of advice that is hundreds of pages long, that is advice to government from its own bureaucrats as they were coming into government. It's now categorically out of date. There's been so much more modelling done and published by the government,
but they made a rather
which
significant
overtakes this, right?
Now and saying doesn't count.
So we can FOI every document under the sun, but let's talk about the most recent data, which, again, very clearly all published shows that renewable energy is the cheapest form of energy. This is the best thing we can do to bring down power prices and also act on climate change. Two really important economic and social drivers, right? It's not like the price of other energy forms are also not skyrocketing. And
correct, but this government never says it costs anything to build. They just want to jump to 30 years in the future. And again, I'd love to be able to go over the transition period, but the transition period is what it is. I'd love to go over the transition period of when I'm borrowing money for a home loan and when I've paid it off.
We've got coal-fired power stations that are at the end of their life and closing. So it's a choice, right? It's not just like we're starting from nothing. We're going to have to choose between building renewable energy infrastructure and batteries or building other coal-fired power stations.
I want to talk about council approval for things in a second because Victoria's changing that system. Surprise. But, Sean, I want to ask about many of the social media companies are in Canberra talking about the upcoming under-16s law, and they're openly talking about one of the ways that they are going to be able to sort of give the middle finger is to force all Australians on some level to have to use a form of identity in order to say they are over the age of 16. What are your thoughts on whether that is going to be likely the case, or they can narrow this down that really the only people that need to prove it are people, say, 14 to 18?
Paul, We are about to see this legislation come into effect. Labor government likes to say that they've brought this in to protect children, but we don't see them taking steps to protect children from things like online pornography. We just don't buy it. We believe this is really about the Labor government looking to control people's lives, to control how they use the internet. And then that's why we're prepared and we're happy to say we'll be introducing legislation to repeal this ban. The Labor government really should be not interfering with this. It's parents' responsibility to control what their children do and don't do on the internet, and that's how it should be.